You're listening to Forever Fierce with Catherine Grace O'Connell, only on LA Talk Radio.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Catherine Grace O'Connell, and welcome to the Forever Fierce Show. We have a fabulous show today with a wonderful woman sitting next to me. It's actually the first time, I think, where we've had a guest in studio and a wonderful guest calling in. So I'm delighted to introduce Corina Fields to the show today. Hello, Corina. Welcome.
Hello to you, too.
And I have a lovely introduction, which I'm going to read because there is so much to know about my beautiful guest here who has had quite a colorful life. Corina has been a respected and valued member of SHARE Inc for over 30 years. I know, hard to believe. Currently serving, currently serving her second term as SHARE president, Corina brings great vision, energy, and passion to this role. She embraces SHARE's unique history and tradition as a celebrated LA-based children's charity. As president, Corina maintains a focus on finding better ways to meet the needs of at-risk and disadvantaged youth throughout Los Angeles. And Corina was crowned Miss Universe. I can't leave that out. In 1964, I was 3 years old. after being crowned Miss Greece the same year. I mean, I don't know how many. I'm feeling a little, my self-esteem is a little low today.
You have nothing to worry about, really.
So she was born in Athens, and Corina dreamed of coming to America after falling in love with American film. Who doesn't? So welcome to the show.
So happy to be here, honestly. This is my first radio show since 1965.
Since 1965.
It's about time.
It is hard to believe.
And because of SHARE, and I'm very appreciative.
Well, we are delighted. Jennifer, who I met, Jennifer is sitting here in studio right now, and Jennifer runs Press Pass LA, and she has been a devoted member of SHARE, and now she's doing the press, and we knew each other, so she reached out to me. SHARE is an amazing organization, and clearly it drew you in 30 years ago, and now for the last 2 years you're president. So please let us know a little bit more about SHARE and the incredible work they're doing.
Since I was in Greece, my mother taught us to pray about the family and about the children all around the world. So it was a habit every night to pray about that. Then when I went to school for the first time, we get a slice of American cheese and a cup of milk. And I fell in love with America. I'm telling you the combination. Then I would go to the movies, and I see Doris Day and Rock Hudson, the beautiful houses and the gowns. So my prayer every night to God is, please help me to come to America, and then I'll take care of kids as much as I can. So every single night I pray and I look at America movies, during the day, and at night I would dream about that I was in it. So when the time came, I came to America and became Miss Universe, but I didn't come to become Miss Universe. I came so I can win, so I can stay in America. So another Greek girl, Sandra Moss, introduced me to SHARE. So it was a perfect combination because whatever I prayed happened, so I have to pay back. So, and I love children. I can get along with children. Anybody under 5 and everybody over 80, they love me. So I'm very successful on that. So honestly, I'm very happy that I have the opportunity to give back to this country because America is still the greatest country in the world. So I'm very happy to play part of it and help others.
And how did you find SHARE, or how did SHARE find you?
Yeah, Sandra Moss, I told you, is a Greek lady. She told me there's an organization of ladies that they try to help children with disabilities. So she invited me, and in a way she told me, Sandra, that you're going to meet friends for the rest of your life. You're going to learn a lot of things. You're going to meet girls that you're not too happy about it, but still you're going to be together for the rest of your life. So I loved it because my family was in Greece. I don't have cousins and brother, so I needed a family environment. And I found that in SHARE. So the first time I went there, she took me to the rape treatment center. And I babysat with babies that they were raped. So yes, with my husband would go because he was a producer to movies and glamour. But then there's another world out there that I wouldn't have the opportunity to meet and be involved, passionate about it, because that can happen to anybody's kids. So I got a lot of education And then we go with kids with special needs. And I saw the parents, the most wonderful people, being there. They take care of those kids. So slowly, I got a lot of satisfaction personally by being there, raising money, and then going to the facilities and not where every penny goes. So that's why it happens.
That's quite a beautiful story. And talk about melding two worlds. The world of SHARE was started by many of the wives of the Rat Pack.
That's right.
Which is crazy. And melding that world with disadvantaged youth. So share with me your experience, 30 years with SHARE. You've clearly had some pretty colorful stories.
Yes, and a lot of people now, they're asking us to do a reality show, but not yet. I haven't brought that to the board.
Well, you said you're planning to be here till 103 at 73 right now, so 30 years left.
So there are wonderful stories, and we keep them secrets, some of them. But it was Rosemary Stack. She was married to Robert Stack. He was a big star. Mm-hmm. And she liked to take massages, and the day of the show, she was back, having a massage, and she missed the whole show. And she was rehearsing for 3 months. So there are a lot of stories like that with the older ladies.
That's amazing. Yeah. And you said, many of these women, there's one this year who's the SHARE benefit is coming up on May the 20th. And you said one of the original members who's 99 is going to be there?
Miriam Nelson. She did a lot of choreography for us, the girls. And she put me and some other ladies on the trapeze upside down. I don't know how we did it. So we have a combination of some shows that she choreographed. So she's going to be on stage and do a little tap dance number, and the rest of the ladies would come out. I know Miriam forever. So it's like a grandmother that's still there. I didn't have the opportunity to stay with my grandmother, but Miriam was there.
Wow.
So it's different generations. We have a new generation of ladies this year that I brought one of them. Natalie Lander happens to be my late husband's granddaughter. And she's a dynamite. She is on the show, and she loves every minute of it. And she knows since little girl what I was doing. So keep going.
It's so exciting. It sounds like an amazing benefit. Yeah. Every year you change it up and have somebody really cool there. The Righteous Brothers? The Righteous Brothers are going to be there.
And I can't remember the name of the other ladies.
Jennifer? Martha and the Vandellas are going to be there.
It would be new for me. Because
okay, and tell me the name again. Louis Amstel from Dancing with the Stars will be there. So, in other words, guys, it's going to be a rockin' benefit, and we are going to make sure that you know exactly, because people can still buy tickets. Is that correct?
Yes.
And celebrate and benefit SHARE.
ShareForChildren.org.
SHARE. Okay, Jennifer, and you may want to just take a little stool over here. Jennifer, Press Pass LA is giving us. So say that one more time, Jen.
It's a ShareForChildren.org. It's the number 4.
ShareForChildren.org. So number 4. Share number 4. Children.org is where you guys can find all the information on this incredible SHARE benefit that is coming up on.
And quickly, it's May 20th at 5 o'clock at the Beverly Hilton in Beverly Hills, but we're almost sold out. So please, if you want to come, you're going to, the girls right now, as I'm talking to you, they're tap dancing, they're rehearsing. They have eyes on their knees, they have eyes on their back. It's a hard-working group, honestly. It's not, we don't hire somebody and do the show and they leave. We really that's why I cannot walk right now. All the dancer, I like to call myself.
Well, we are so excited. We have an amazing woman calling in now. Loreen Arbus is the woman. Every year you have an honoree. An honoree, a special honoree. So Loreen is now joining the line. I'd like to welcome Loreen Arbus to the show.
I thank you, and that's coming from an amazing host.
Loreen, we're so delighted to have you. So let me give a quick introduction. So every year, SHARE honors an amazing and inspirational woman, particularly somebody, I don't know if it's always women, but is that correct, Jen? No. An amazing individual who has given back and served, and particularly in the capacity. I know Loreen has been very actively involved in helping disadvantaged youth and children with disabilities because of her own life experience. So Loreen is the president of the Loreen Arbus Foundation. She is a disability rights activist, a philanthropist, a producer, a writer, an author, so many more wonderful accolades. She will be receiving the Shining Spirit Award for her tireless work to help those marginalized in our community, specifically through the Loreen Arbus Foundation, which provides scientific medical research for those with disabilities, supports racial and gender minorities, and is active in environmental causes. She's an industry trailblazer who earned the distinction of being the first woman to head programming for a U.S. network, a feat she accomplished twice, both at Showtime and Lifetime. And with that, so delighted to have both of you incredible ladies here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's a shame you don't see her right now. She's a beautiful, generous, sweet woman. And I've been to her place, and it's like I was a kid in Disneyland. It's so beautiful, so colorful, and she's very generous.
Thank you, Corrina.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all your help.
So fun. Well, I had the opportunity of speaking with Loreen on the phone the other day. Jen had hooked us up, and trust me, I put that bug in her ear, didn't I, Loreen, to come on the show when you are in LA, because we would love to really be able to dive into your story. Because today we'll frame it around SHARE and the work that you're doing with SHARE and your being honored this year. But you've had an illustrious career and quite a colorful story since really the day you were born.
That's true. And I'd love to visit with you in person. I go back and forth across the country all the time.
That would be wonderful. And we have a mutual friend in common. I happened to see something in my research. My favorite part of this, my job here, is the research on my guests, because everybody has the most incredible story. So Lee Woodruff said to tell you hello. There was something about you doing work with the veterans, and she's married to Bob Woodruff and does amazing work with the veterans. So she said, make sure to tell you hello.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch who you said.
Lee Woodruff. We have a mutual friend in common.
She's fabulous. She is an inspiration.
She is an
fabulous.
Inspiration. So she said, make sure and tell you. She said hello.
My best back to her, please.
Absolutely. So I would love to start with, your sister was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. I believe you called her Cookie, at a very young age, and she was greatly misunderstood by society and what you refer to as marginalized. So how did that impact you, your family, and your life's purpose and bring you into SHARE?
Well, my father had a very, very prestigious position in the world, which he worked very hard to earn, in his executive professional life, but it didn't matter when it came to his family and his being seen with his daughter, for that matter, my older sister, because people more then, but certainly still now, ostracized people with disability. They were not accepted. The society we're in was not inclusive. A lot's changed, but a lot has not. And cerebral palsy is, I just want to clarify, is not a disease, it's a disability. And she had many complications and many different disabilities. But she was very lucky because, or we all were very lucky because she was very beautiful. So people, probably some people didn't stay away from her because of her sort of magnetic appearance. But she made strange sounds. She sat in a wheelchair. She couldn't walk. She was very messy when she ate, and her caretaker would feed her and or put the spoon in her hand so she would feed herself, and it was a matter of giving her some pride and sense of purpose, and the food would go flying. It wasn't easy.
It sounds heartbreaking. It actually reminds me a lot of the pictures of like Helen Keller back in that day, dealing
yes.
with some, yeah, that's the
a
visual.
Perfect analogy, actually. She was, we were routed to the back of any restaurant we tried to go to, and most would not accept us. And no hotel would take us, only Howard Johnson's. I will forever be grateful to them, even though it's a chain that's largely diminished, unfortunately. For whatever ones are left, I just sing their praises because they made such a difference.
That's lovely. Corrina, you come from a very different background, although you did immigrate immigrate into the United States.
Yes.
Is there a period of your life, being Miss Universe and Miss Greece and living in LA and married to a producer, that you felt marginalized by society? Can you relate to that personally?
To tell you the truth, the word marginalized, it's very new for me.
So where you were treated as less than, really, as you were, you see these at-risk youth and this whole Me Too movement and Time's Up movement where women's voices are shut down and shunned.
In 1964, when I came here, it was women's liberation movement. And coming from Greece, my father was from Sparta and in the army. I couldn't mention a boy's name. I couldn't, are you kidding, dating? Nothing. So to me, the American woman it was the free woman. I didn't know why they want to burn their brassieres. I didn't know why they want to go to the same bathrooms than the men. I can understand to get the same amount of money, because if they're working just as hard as men, they should get paid as much as men. So as a Miss Universe those days, it was mostly women that were against me, because it was like selling myself, be there in a bathing suit. I did not see it that way. I told them, I'm 20 years old, I have a high school education, I travel all around the world first class, I meet presidents and vice presidents every place I go. Show me a boy 20 years old can do the same. So I thought I was above and stronger than the men but the question is, the women fell against me. But I didn't mind, because when you're secure about yourself, they can say whatever they want. I realize it's the person that has nothing to do with me. So I was lucky enough to get this self-esteem from my father. And I'm sorry, Loreen, I read your mother and your father. Both of my parents loved me unconditionally. I was, especially my father. And because of that, I wanted him to be proud of me. So I wouldn't do different things, because if my father find out, that would kill him. And I knew that. So because I had the guidance of my father and the strength, even when I came to America, I wouldn't date. I would go out, I would go to the movie. If a boy tried to kiss me, I'd go, we have to get married first. They would run so fast, you would know. No, but I was the girl that would take home for the Christmas or Thanksgiving. I was the nice girl because of my father. So I never looked the way if somebody looked down on me. It didn't bother me. It doesn't matter. It was not me. It was the person.
So you always had a great sense of self from your background. Now, Loreen, that makes me go over to you, because I remember in one interview you talked about women having this sort of disease of people-pleasing, which I can certainly relate to. So tell us about that and your feelings, because you came through a very different childhood where at least it sounds like you always felt outside in, and you were looking for some sort of approval, at least put it in your own words.
Yes, I was always an outsider. I was the only girl coming from my family's faith who went to a school that was a religious school in a different faith. I was ostracized because my mother was mentally unstable, and that's putting it mildly, and none of the other mothers wanted their children to come to my house to play with me, and they also didn't like the fact that my sister had disability, and that, of course, was one of the great reasons for being ostracized. I have always found incredible support in female friends, just amazing, and a lot of women have felt that women discriminate against them professionally and otherwise. I've always been, and it's never even been a question to me, been supportive of promoting women and working with women, and they have been likewise. Maybe I'm naive, but likewise they have accorded me a great support through the years.
That's
the answer.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. Thank you for,
I'd like to bring something up with the Me Too.
Sure, with Me Too.
I was born in Greece automatically, since I remember myself, 10, 12, whatever, the men would look, or the young boys, they'll be in the corners and they're looking at us, the girls, and they always say something, either good or bad too. So you're prepared to defend yourself. We go to the movie theater. The girls would like to sit together, and the last girl, if a boy would be sitting there, you'd be very protective of yourself, because he's going to put his hand on your knee. So I had a little pin, and I would just pin him so he would not do that again. So you learn from a young age to defend yourself. You expect the guy to come after you.
Interesting.
And I realized in life, because of fear, if somebody tried to do something I don't know, I slap him so hard. I don't care if he was my boss. I don't care if it didn't go through my mind. So a couple of times it happened, and I hit the person really hard. The next day they apologize. And you scream, because the moment you scream, nobody wants to be around. They don't expect that. So I think men, like we have some now, they know the weakness of a woman. So I never let any man think that I'm weak and he's going to take advantage of me. And that's what
I find that inspiring and incredible.
I do
really
too.
remarkable.
Yes, that's what I want the young girls to say. If somebody doesn't make you feel good, hit him between the legs, whatever it takes. They will not try again, and they're not going to accuse you about anything. They would run, because men like that, they're not men.
I love
so
that.
It works.
I mean, talk about one empowered woman. Where did you come from at
In
73?
Greece, I mean,
It's amazing.
You learn as a kid. Yeah. Nobody is going to take advantage of you if you don't want to. You don't.
Loreen, it sounds like you did not grow up with that kind of childhood where you had that embedded in your, although, hang on, let me take back 1 second. There's a story about you talking about being, you say openly you were a bully, and then you had a very life-changing experience where a teacher saw something in you, and you talk about creating space, and this really changed something for you. So when you were growing up, did anyone role model that behavior for you, where you really learned to stand up for yourself? And then when you had this experience where you saw a teacher see something in you and open up this space for you to really step into who you truly are.
Yes, I did not grow up in a co-ed world unlike Corina. I didn't know about the dangers that lurked in the world when men are integrated into it. And not until I went to college did that experience come my way. And it's been a fascinating journey with what's gone on with the Me Too movement and so on. For me, fascinating. And put me in touch with a lot of things that I was in denial about. Because my school I went to was all girls, and my life was very, very compartmentalized and separate. I was brought up to believe in myself and to expect no handout, that whatever money I would make, whatever money I would have to make and support myself and not to expect anything, which was great, I have to say. I was also brought up to give money away, to help others. I did not get an allowance. I got a very small allowance at a point in time, but it was only to use to give to a cause. I could choose the cause. But I had to work for my money, which is fine, at a very young age, picking weeds in the garden and cleaning up and doing chores, and had to be self-sufficient. Unlike the girls in my school, however, my parents brought me up to be remarkably independent. I was on a bus going cross-country when I was maybe 14 or so, which is pretty amazing, actually, I think. What do you think?
I think that's incredible. I think you and Corina have a lot in common, being very strong, empowered, independent women from a young age.
That is,
Yeah.
it's harder for you because your parents had the money. So it was, for me, I didn't expect anything because my parents did not have the money, so I had to be responsible to help them. But it was life that made me like that. Your parents, it was different. They tried to teach you the right way to bring up into life, to work, and then you get paid, not to expect for anything from anybody. And I grew up the same way, but because of necessity.
Very different beginnings, but very similar. It
Right.
sounds like characters
Right.
on the inside. So, Loreen, speaking of that, you were a very independent woman when it comes to not wanting to ride on your father was the head of ABC. Clearly, you went on to head Lifetime and Showtime, which is an incredible feat for a woman. But you did that really of your own accord, kind of hiding. Do you want to share that story? I think it's an amazing story.
Well, whenever I was working for a short period of time at ABC to get my training, and my father said to me one day, he was such a sweet person, he said, "Loreen, I want to propose something to you. I don't know how much longer I will live. He lived many years after this, but he said, I would like to ask you to consider letting me help you for a period of time. I admire and respect that you wanted to make it on your own, and that is the right thing to do, but let me help you to get a leg up. And so he did, and with an entry-level job at his company, and I stayed there for a few months to be trained, and until there were some openings elsewhere, which I applied for. But whenever I saw him near the elevator, when he was in Los Angeles, he lived in New York, and I was in Los Angeles. Whenever I saw him, I would hide, I'd run. I didn't want to be seen with him, because why would the chairman of the board be kissing hello to an employee, you know?
I hear you. I think that's a very sweet story. It sounds like you and your dad had a beautiful relationship. I know you talk about it being very sort of business oriented, but it sounds like he really took you under his wing and had a deep love for his daughter. Now, if we can move on to your mom, I know your mom really had an impact on you in many ways in your life. She was, much like you, a trailblazer. And like you say, you're very open about her, suffering from her own mental illness. But how did your sister and the way she was treated, and then I know your mom fell into a deep depression, but then she really accomplished some incredible things. So please share that story and your experience of your mother and how that impacted you.
Well, my mother was a fighter. My mother was somebody who was angry. Some of it was absolutely understandable in light of the difficulty. I mean, she wore a scarlet letter because of her child. And she was raised in a very eccentric family, extremely eccentric. She was just an angry human being, and she was brutal, physically and otherwise, to my sister, younger sister, and myself. But what she accomplished is something I will spend the rest of my life extolling and crediting her for, and seeking to have the world recognize, because she didn't get any credit or recognition in her lifetime, and that's also what fueled her anger. She was just she was invisible. My mother had my father, who was able to get to pretty much anyone in the world, set up a meeting for her at the Ames Research Center in California after the first man landed on the moon. She was furious. Most people were celebrating. She was furious because her observation was, they can spend all this money to put somebody into outer space and to build the equipment to do that. Well, what are they doing for people on Earth? She insisted on having a meeting with NASA. They figured it would be a peremptory meeting, a very short meeting for the wife of the chairman of the board. It turned into an all-day meeting, and a couple months later it turned into a 3-day meeting, which 3 former presidents of the United States, the head of the NIH, the head of Harvard, and so on and so forth, and all the top brass with the military attended. And from that meeting came the incredible decision to take a lot of the breakthroughs in our science, in our exploration efforts, and apply them to people on Earth. For instance, titanium, that lightweight material, would never have been applied, or might never have been applied, to heavy equipment that people with disability use, braces, wheelchairs. And so they realized that could be a major breakthrough. A lot of the research that they did on what it takes to survive in outer space, breathing equipment that allows an astronaut to walk, to move with remote control. This was all applied. The whole world of robotics opened up because my mother said, use that to help people on Earth. And she's responsible for the legislation. 15 years before the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Architectural Barriers Act included in it all these ideas that came from my mother to make sidewalks wheelchair accessible, and public telephones, and public bathrooms, and a whole lot more wheelchair accessible, handicap parking in public parking lots. These things were all my mother's ideas, and there's so much more. That's the tip of the iceberg. One of the things, she created the very first telethon.
It's amazing.
It is an amazing story, and it sounds like she found many ways to channel her anger. Clearly, it was sometimes very destructive, but it could also be very constructive, which I think is a wonderful lesson for the women in our audience, because we all go through challenging times in our lives. Corrina, have you found that in your life? Are there times when you had challenging experiences where you may have taken anger and used it in a constructive way?
Well, that's what I said. Through SHARE, I learned so many things. I learned so many things. And 3.5 years ago, my son called me. The baby was born premature. And he called me crying. And he said, "Mom, he has Williams syndrome." And that moment, I know I would love that baby. But I was worried about my son. Because through SHARE, I saw kids with disabilities. And I saw the other world, the beautiful world. And I said, "Paris, it's going to be okay, honey. It's going to be okay." But it was the pain of a mother with your son. Well, that boy, Lucas, is 3.5. I've never been, I swear, I have 3 other grandchildren, which I adore. I've never been so in love with Luca. He's 3.5. He doesn't talk. He doesn't walk yet. But I can spend 3 hours with him, and I'm melting every single second that I look at him. And when he leaves me, like he goes to his mom, I feel drained and happy. I feel so happy. It's like I'm with an angel. 3 hours I'm with him. With face, he doesn't know me, but where's Yaya, he looks at me, smiles at me, and gives me a kiss. I'm just the happiest person in the world. And so everything that happens in life is for a reason. If everything is normal, nothing great comes out of it. But with all the problems, we learn to do things. Some of us were lucky, like your mother, at least she did the wonderful things, and some people do horrible things. And that's what's balanced in life. When I travel around the world, I learn one thing as a 20-year-old. Everywhere, there are good people and bad people. Everywhere. So it doesn't matter if he's rich or poor, whatever. It matters if it's a nice person or a bad person. And that's what it's sad to see the politicians every country to make this world a worse world instead of working together. So that's very, nice thought. But as I said, through bad things, I'm the happiest person in the world. I don't call my grandson, I call my son. My grandson, he taught me patience. He taught me to be happy with no expectations. He taught me to live one day at a time. And that's the best lessons in life. And I'm grateful to him.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that beautiful and vulnerable story. And I have a feeling, Loreen, you could really relate to that through experience of your sister, and you speak very openly about her caretaker and really the love that your sister emanated that most people couldn't really understand because we're so busy judging.
Totally. I was always very angry with my mother because she was, quite frankly, abusive. And I never loved my mother, but I always respected what she accomplished. And the big lesson I had from Miss Hanson, who I always considered my adopted mother, she was my older sister's caretaker and the most wonderful person in the world. She would say to me, "Loreen, you need to kill with kindness. Your mother cannot help herself. You need to keep that in mind." It was a life lesson for me.
I totally agree. I don't think your mother knew how to deal with it. Sometimes you feel guilty, maybe it's your fault, or and you're afraid to take responsibility that you have nothing to do with it. The kid was born like that for some reason. It was sad for her, but look at the great things she did.
Yeah, it's an
So
amazing story, and I know you also talk about your sister's caretaker saying that no one's ever going to love her the way I do. So I think that really ties together you and Corrina having these experiences with these incredibly special children that just have these gifts that are way beyond human understanding.
And I'm glad now more people get to know that. Before, people were embarrassed to say they have a kid with mental illness or whatever. But now there are more open people. Young girls were afraid to say they were raped. They were embarrassed. It was a big stigma. Now more people, thank goodness, come out of it. And I feel badly for some of them still. They're so embarrassed and so damaged that they don't have that freedom to tell and get better.
Well, thank God for Time's Up and Me
Yes,
Too and rallying around women, being allowed to speak up and speak out, particularly about these experiences that have been so traditionally shameful. So one thing I want to share, Loreen, in the research I did, probably one of my favorite things was watching your TED Talk. And I mean, I loved all of it. I loved your colorful apartment. I loved everything I read about you. You just have to be one of the coolest human beings I've ever seen. But the TED Talk, you talk about really finding what true power is. It's very different than what we think true power is, isn't it?
We have so many labels for different things, and so many expectations that are laid upon us and that we see on television in the lives of others. I have never related to money as a secret to anything. Or, I mean, what it buys is the opportunity to help other people. That's the only thing I think is the advantage to money. And I don't see it as having more. My parents lived pretty modestly. Most people in my father's station in life would have traveled first class, would have had a car and driver, would have lived in a mansion. To be quite crass and frank about it, my father, no. He would come out of the tourist section, and his executives were up front in the first class, and they didn't know that he was in that plane, and they would be a little defensive. He just was very humble, small-town man who lived his life in a very generous and self-effacing way.
Yes.
And it was just truly wonderful to be able to be brought up in that regard. My mother came from great wealth, and but to her credit, she insisted on a work ethic, and so I and giving back, as I already said. So I feel very fortunate. Did I answer anything that you asked?
Yeah, I think that's a lovely answer. You definitely did. And one thing I know, I consider myself a disruptor. I think Corina is definitely a disruptor here. It sounds like a lot of the people involved in SHARE are disruptors. You call yourself a disruptor. We have a lot of women in our audience right now that are looking for ways to fiercely reinvent themselves. Many have been aged out of their jobs, or empty nesters, or for whatever reason, divorces, life-threatening illnesses. So what would you say to these women, since you've blown through just about every glass ceiling out there? What can they do to disrupt the status quo and disrupt things in their own lives in a positive way?
Be honest with yourself about your limitations and acknowledge your strengths. Oh, something that you asked earlier that I meant to respond to is that women apologize for their very existence. You're in a room and a woman raises her hand and she says, "Oh, excuse me, I just have one question." Why is she apologizing? Ask your question already. And women just need to accept and embrace their strength and utilize it to build perhaps a new career, a new work with a talent that they've not explored before. It's not easy. I'm not making light of this, but confidence is so important.
Confidence is key, and confidence is really internal. I think we get that one mixed up, don't we?
Well, when I came to America, it was ignorance that made me strong because I went to Fox. I was going to sign a contract, and they give me a contract they invite me from New York. They pay my hotel and some expenses, and then it was a time to sign a contract, and the contract was $176 a week. And I went, a week? Well, everybody gets that. Well, I said, I'm not everybody. And I turned, and I was going to leave. And I had no plan B. I didn't want to go to Greece. And as I'm walking out, I said to myself, what did I do? And the head of the casting goes, okay, let's talk about it. And I go, yes. And I made a better deal for myself. But out of ignorance and fear or whatever it was. But if you don't try, you will never know.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, you have to try. What's the worst thing can happen?
You do have to try. I think that
and I went for an interview for Bad Men. And the first time, because I grew up a very, you don't show off. You don't say, I'm so good at this. You go, yes, you're very humble. Oh, my God, I can be starving. I could never say I'm starving. No, that's okay. So when I went for an interview, my first interview, they say, can you dance? Oh, no. Can you sing? Oh, no. Can you act? A little bit. They were laughing. He said, what can you do? Make some Greek food? I mean, so they said to me, when you go back to the second interview, you lie about everything. So I went for a party. They called for a tennis player. I never played tennis in my life. Do you play tennis? Sure. I got the part. I got lessons after that. They gave me lessons. I thought they were going to fire me, but they didn't. So you try because you say, if I didn't try, it's 100% I lost it. But if I try, it's a 50-50. So I don't give up.
So you just say yes and you figure it out.
Yes, you figure it out.
Well, I know, Loreen, we're going to let you go pretty quickly, but I have one more final thought to discuss with you. Tango. Tango is a big part of your life. Tango is supposed to, I don't know, you might leave the SHARE event and go tango afterwards, from what I understand. You leave everything and go tango. What has tango taught you about yourself?
Well, it united my different parts of me that had been, I think for many women this is true, bifurcated. You wear a kind of a professional uniform and a professional face, and the word is out to not be emotional, to not cry, to, and then, I mean, there's so many different parts of us, especially as women. We're far more complex than men, and there are physiological reasons for this, which to me are utterly intriguing. And in tango, I could bring all the different parts. Argentine tango, I have to say, not ballroom tango, Argentine tango. All the different parts of me could come together, and I could have, and it's a dance of equals. You share. One person takes the lead, the other person follows. Then the other person may do a flourish or something that is a very personal statement, and that would be more often the woman, and the man waits till she does that. So it's being very sensitive to the other person's rhythm and personality and the direction that they give, being responsive to each other, which made it. It's like being a really good listener.
Oh. And
but on
that's
all different levels.
That's a skill, isn't it, being a really good listener? Well, I think that's beautiful. It sounds like tango for you is just a beautiful metaphor for life, and a real integration of the self, of the parts of the self.
It is.
Yeah.
It totally is.
Well,
I'm writing a book about that, and the fact that it is a metaphor for life.
I love that. Well, I hope you're going to share that book right here on the show, too. I could really talk to you forever, and I can see, well, we'll finish up here now with you, Loreen, and let you get on with your lovely day. Clearly, you have a lot of wonderful things going on, and I know you'll be hitting solid ground in L.A., hopefully, before the 20th for the event here on the 20th. I don't know if you'll be tangoing there with the Righteous Brothers, but I know it's going to be an amazing celebration, and clearly they chose quite a woman this year. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. You're an amazing interviewer and fantastic. You do your research. Oh my goodness, this has been such a pleasure, and I hope to see you.
Oh, I hope so too. I'll make that happen. I'm gonna push Jen over here because she knows your peeps. So thank you.
And Corina and the women of SHARE are doing such an incredible job.
Thank you for
they
the support.
do every year, and they have no support staff. They do everything themselves.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all the support, and you've been wonderful. Thank you again. Really.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here today, and we will finish up with Karina and make sure everybody knows how to support SHARE for this benefit, as well as the incredible work that they continue doing. So thank you for being here, Lorraine. We really appreciate you joining us today, and I look forward to more conversations. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
So, Corrina, with that, what is the selection process? How do you go about? Because clearly every year you find an amazing honoree. How did you happen to find Loreen, and how do you choose the women that you honor?
There's a SHARE lady, Nancy Perlman. Usually there's a member that knows the person personally and volunteer, and usually agree. Somebody wants to do that. So every year there's a different lady that they have somebody they would like to honor. And of course the main thing is how much money they can bring, because that's the thing we do it. And some people, they have a problem. They're shy, some share ladies, to ask people for money. And I'm not, because I know where I go. It's not going in my bank account. And I never ask people that I cannot afford. So I'm very straight about that. I would go to the places. We went to Calvin School. They were amazing kids. We give them Christmas present to see heavily. They couldn't talk. They wouldn't walk. There were some kids that screaming, but you see their faces the moment you got in, and you wish you could make more money and give. That gives you that thing, because I see those pictures, so I ask for money.
Well, I think that's a whole nother show on why women have a really hard time, number one, around the conversation of money and asking for money, because this is really a really important cause. And you've been there for 65 years, is that right, Share?
Sure, organization, 65 years.
And they've raised $48 million, is that correct? Over 60. That was the last number I saw on there. Over 60 million.
Close to 60.
Close to 60
because
million.
In the beginning, didn't. But it's amazing that still, people want to come to the show, and because everybody is there, there's a share lady that they like, or their daughter, or
There's
so
always a personal
it's
connection.
Not exactly. It's not like people that would come if they don't know somebody, they won't come. I think. So it's the share ladies that bring the energy and tell the friends and the girlfriends, like you said.
Bring your girlfriends.
I have so many girlfriends coming. They better.
They better be there, right? Or else I wouldn't want to mess with you. I can tell you right now.
But you know what? You support their thing they do.
So you got to take a pin and poke them.
With the women's thing, because the European women think differently with the American woman. There is no competition. Who is the strongest one? It's a woman thing and it's a man thing. And I learned from my mother a lot, because my father was tough. But everything she wanted, she did it. But she always thought it was my father's idea. My father thought it was his idea. Like she wouldn't put lipstick on. And my father would say, "Honey, are you okay?" She says, "Yeah, Vasiliki is going to the Greek island, but I don't want to go." "Why don't you want to go?" "Well, I don't want to leave you with the kids, but you will be, you have a better time." "No, George, I really don't want it. I don't want to leave you alone." "Honey, I insist you go." "Okay, George, if that's what you want me to do, I'll do it." So I watched my mother negotiate things to make my father feel the much, but she did whatever she wanted to do. So it's a kind of a trick. Some people say, "I don't like to play games." I see the end. What I really want and how I'm going to get it. Can I be sweet? Can I be mint or whatever? But with honey, you get more.
You do. You got more with sugar than you do with spice.
I think you do.
Maybe sugar and spice. You have both, I think, a little sugar and spice in there. But so, if people want to get involved, I know we need to wrap up. You have the event on the 20th. I know that is almost sold out. But if people want to get involved in your organization, because you don't just have this event, you have an ongoing operation to raise funds and get involved. You have multiple events and multiple ways people can get involved, be it hands-on, be it fundraising.
Well, the thing is, two share ladies have to bring one lady to know that she's going to work. She's not going to, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out. But you see the people, how much they're ready to commit. Some people, they think it's too much. And always when I bring a new member, I said, you have to do this. I give them straight ahead. Mm-hmm. If you cannot pay the dues, don't come. You have people just to pay the dues. But otherwise, you don't need to spend money, but you can help with different things, like with the show. You can help with the show. You can volunteer a lot of things. Some people can raise money. Some people can do a lot of things. So it's a combination of two. And some people, we need dancers because that's what the show is. But you cannot be just a dancer. You have to raise some money. So there are rules to make everybody on their feet. That's
awesome. Yes. Well, it's an amazing organization. And clearly it's been a delight to have you on and get to know you and Loreen and
Jennifer.
Do you want to come in? Do you want to stick in, Jen? You can buy. No, you're good.
You can just buy tickets also online.
Okay, you guys can
come support the show.
You can buy tickets.
Or just make donations.
And we're going to have an auction online right now that everybody can go when they go. Children for Share.
It's listed on the SHARE website. SHARE for Children.
SHARE for Children.
ShareForChildren.org.
Bid on these auction items.
So much. Okay. Shareforchildren.org. There are auction items you guys can bid on
exactly.
there. You can get involved. There's multiple events through the year. There's many, many ways that you guys can support this event, future events, as well as volunteer. Like you said, I'm a horse lover. I saw the horse thing. I'm like, horses and kids with disabilities. Oh my Lord. There were amazing, amazing things on the site. So check out the site. Get involved, guys. It's an incredible organization doing amazing things for kids who are born, disadvantaged.
And I want to mention one thing. There are a lot of ladies, they said, when the kids leave the house and they feel lonely, get involved with something. Get involved with your church. Get involved with the older people. Get involved with something. Don't expect your kids to take care of you and call you. And if they don't call you, get upset. My kids have to call me to make a date because I'm busy. You have to be out. Just stay home and think about your kids all the time. When they're growing, have your own life.
So women out there are Forever Fierce women. This woman is 73 years young. She said walking in she had another at least 30 years left, and I don't think they're going to be quiet years. So clearly Loreen is breaking through paradigms. Corina's breaking through paradigms. You can break through paradigms. Disrupt. So we are all about rewire, reinvent, rewire, and be relevant because you are. So disrupt everything, guys, because that's what we're here and we're doing. So join the Forever Fierce revolution. Check out SHARE. Do something great. Serve, give back. And in this world of Me Too and Time's Up, there's a lot that we can do to focus on a solution and doing things for good. So cheers, beauties. Thank you for being here, Corina.
Well, I love that. Thank you so much.
Stay fierce.
You're listening to Forever Fierce with Catherine Grace O'Connell, only on LA Talk Radio.